Yo, 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 what's going on? Yo, it's your boy Jay Lat, and I am back with He Said, She Said. I know many of y'all used to hear me on the Chop Shop, but tonight is He Said, She Said. I got my partner in crime, my co-host, my lovely, beautiful wife, Trey. What's good, sweetheart? What's going on?
What's up, J Lat? Everything's good here in the Latimer household.
Everything is good. Everything is good. So, before we get into what we're gonna talk about tonight, Trey, I just want to ask you. We've been seeing a lot. We've seen the Democratic um, Party have their convention, and now the Republicans are having theirs. And I know a lot of people don't really dive into politics like we do in our household. But before we start, what has the experience been for you in terms of just hearing both sides and understanding where our country is and getting perspectives from both sides? So just give me a little insight.
Well, I think just by listening and participating in this process, you can automatically determine facts from alternative facts.
Mm,
Politicians, just by the nature of being political, aren't always truthful. But it's the difference when you're skewing the truth about something and then you're just flat out telling lies that cost people's life, things about COVID, things like that. I know we're going to get into that, but actually telling untruths, flat out lies that make an impact on whether or not someone lives or dies, eat or don't eat, work or
mm,
it makes a big difference. So, I mean, obviously, you want to hear both sides so you can make an informed decision. Me personally, I don't like to listen to that much because it's so much untruths. But I've realized, and even you talked about it, I think before that, it's important to hear both sides so you can make an informed decision. So I'm wide awake. I'm woke.
and that's the thing that that we talk about. I know you've been very influential in my progression in terms of politics of just being woke. I think a lot of times we're so sleep at the wheel that we don't know which lane we're actually in, and then with being misinformed or uninformed, causes us a lot of times to put people in positions that they shouldn't be in, and then we get upset. But it's our lack of energy, our lack of movement that a lot of times put us in the situations that we're in, and we're going to talk about that. I just want to tell the fans out there and the people who watch us, um, we haven't been on as much, but we have been in the mix. We've Trey has signed up for Black Lives Matter, so Ava, she's a part of the Biden campaign. So we're aware, we're totally with the movement because we want to see better in this country. And it's not just a black thing. I want people to understand that. It's just a, a situation where everybody should be treated fairly. It doesn't matter what your skin color is, but we've had to subject ourselves to the way we've been treated for over 400 years, and people are just tired. So I don't think no one black wants to be treated better than anyone else. I just feel that we want to be treated fairly in situations where our counterparts have to be engaged in certain things. We just want to be treated the same way. So if a cop stopped me, just treat me like you would treat anybody else. I don't want to be treated no better than anyone, but I don't want you to um, connect me with how black people are treated just to make a point, because too many of us are dying for no reason. So we're going to continue to use our platform, and we're going to continue to speak out and do the things that's fair for everyone, not just for blacks. And I want to stress that before we started, that this isn't a movement. This is a way of life. It just so happened that the movement has pushed us in that direction. But the reality is that we should be living as great Americans every day. And we're just not seeing that from the communities that we come from. And we're tired. It's that simple. So let's dive in real quick. I have a few questions for you. And I know I popped this up on you, and I know you had a lot to do. You got some big things going on. New job, great promotion. I'm so happy for you. So I want to say congratulations on, wow, GS15. wow, you at the top of the scale, and I just want to say you well deserve everything that comes your way. You're an amazing person. You're a giver. You help so many people, and God is continuing to bless you because you've been faithful, not just to self, but to so many people. You've changed so many people's lives, and I'm one of those people whose lives have you've impacted on a daily basis. So I just want to congratulate you on your new position. And I know you're going to do some great things. So, all right. So the first question, besides the obvious, right? Why is voting so important for our fellow American citizens?
Well, as Black people and just as people in general, we often say we don't have a voice. They don't hear us, But like I have written before, your silence is too loud. If you don't vote, if you don't speak, then your voice can't be heard. So you can't complain. It's imperative that each of us take the time to find out what the issues are, because you're not going to agree with everybody on everything. Not one politician that I've ever seen that every single thing they said we love, not even the beloved President Barack Obama, and I love President Barack Obama, but not even him. They're human. They're learning this process. So it's imperative that we, all of us as Americans that have the right, you have to get out there and let your voice be heard. If you don't care about it, what about your children? Or what about your family members or your neighbors? So it's imperative that you let your voice be heard, because if you don't, your silence speaks volumes.
You said something, and I know it's one of your poems. You said your silence is too loud. And I think, especially with us as Black men, right, we have to deal with so much. And sometimes our energy comes across the wrong way. And so for many of us, we shut down, and speaking out against things that are important to us, right? So I think now you're looking, and there's so many people that are speaking, so a lot of people are using their voices, and that's why I love LeBron James. Not just because of the way he played basketball, because he's a great athlete, but I love him because he's a father. Um, he's a great husband, a provider. He's helped out so many of his friends, but he's using his platform, his voice, to speak about things that are uncomfortable for America, and where a lot of athletes say, you know what, I'm just going to get my check and I'm not going to say nothing because I don't want to rock the boat. LeBron probably has more to lose than anybody in terms of off the court stuff that he's involved in, but he's doing so much, and I commend him so much as a young man to be 35 years old and to have the weight of your shoulders, so much on you. And man, those guys are doing an amazing job. So what do you think about that? Your silence is loud. That spoke volume to me.
Think about it like this. LeBron is 35 years old and he's letting his voice be heard. But as Americans, we can start letting our voice be heard and making a difference at 18, at almost half that. You don't have to wait till you're 35. You can make a difference right now. And, just to keep it on a sports analogy, you got to think about it as playing a pool. So many times, you're in the football pool, you're in the basketball pool, you're in March Madness. Well, right now, we about to be in November Madness. And your team can win if you play in the pool.
Mm.
You have to go ahead and fill out your bracket.
Mm,
What
mm, mm.
or whatever party that you are affiliated with, how can your team win if you don't get in the bracket? How can you win the prize? You can't. So put a
Mm.
pool, the prize is your life, your well-being, your way of life.
Wow. That right there is a great analogy, and I think even people who aren't as diverse and aware when it comes to politics or knowledgeable can understand that terminology right there, because so many people are connected to sports. And that's what some of the things that I try to do is when I make an analogy to relate to people on their level, because sometimes some things are over people's head and they don't understand, or because we don't understand something, we don't try to learn it. And that's one of the things you push me towards all the time, is just because I'm not knowledgeable in the area, how about you learn it and figure out? Because you may know, you just may be afraid, or you may think it's not important, and then you lose out on something that could potentially become an asset, but now you're using it as a liability towards yourself and the people around you.
And in our community, if I tell you it's a new bag on sale, you running to the mall, or if there's some new Air Jordans, you running, you online, you're investigating, you looking at the reviews, and all. You have to do the same thing in the political process, because this is your life. You don't need a bag, you don't need a pair of shoes, but you do need a government that works for you.
Mm,
Personally, I mean, we're in a good situation. You know what I mean? We don't know what it's like to be hungry at this point in our life, but we still have
absolutely.
empathy and compassion for those folks that live in Southeast DC, or any east side of any city. I feel bad when somebody's out there homeless, or they lost their job during this situation, or they lost their health care. That should make a difference to every American, to every human being. So we have to let our voice be heard by getting into the process and
Mm,
vote. It's free.
mm, mm, mm. Wow. It's free. And so many people have lost their lives and sacrificed so much. I know for me, I feel like I owe so many people so much. So anything that I can do to make a difference, I know for myself, I'm going to do everything possible. And I haven't done enough yet. But before I leave this earth, I promise myself that I'm going to do a whole lot to make a difference. So my next question is, when did you feel the need to make a difference, with your vote? When was that time that you felt like, you know what, I gotta vote?
Being in the military, especially spending half of my career overseas, we always had a voting officer in the squadron, in the unit, to say, hey, you have to vote. But I still didn't realize the importance of it. So as I maturated through my career, and I started seeing what true leadership looks like, and then
Mm,
falling up under the commander in chief, it started to matter to me what type of policies and
mm,
programs that the commander in chief of the military, which is the president of the United States, put into effect. So I started becoming aware of exactly what was out there. And then in addition to that, as a Democrat, I'm a Democrat, and mostly you see women. They say that the women are the important part of the Democratic Party, but the reality is it's our men too. So if our men, especially our Black men, will come in and use their voice and start voting, we can get what we need from our government. So we need both sides. So that's when it started becoming important to me as I progressed through my military career and learned about what true leadership looks like.
yeah, I think for me, it really became important when I think when Bill Clinton, ran, because I think that's the first time in my life that I saw someone who was actually for people that looked like me, who sounded like me. He was somewhat of a representative. And I know people are going to say, well, Clinton created this bill and, this what happened to us. And, as a politician, they don't always do, they make mistakes just like we do. And sometimes their mistakes seem like it's more. But I think for me, the crime bill that they created didn't truly affect me because I'm not out there. One thing we got to realize that if you're not committing no crimes, then it shouldn't affect you. And we don't like to hear that, but that's the reality. Has it been unfair to some Black men because of some of the laws that they created? Absolutely. We've gotten a lot more time than we should have, so we're not going to allow them to just get away with it. But that's when I really started to understand when voting mattered. You know what I'm saying? And that was in the 90s, and I'm almost 30 years old at that point.
And it,
So, for about a good 18 years, voting really didn't matter because no one really sat me down in my community and told me that it mattered. You know what I heard a lot? oh, it don't matter anyway. They're going to pick who they want to pick anyway. And if you hear it enough, you start to believe it, even when it's not true.
Absolutely. You have,
And that's sad. You
yeah,
know, we got to get out of that. We got to get away from that stigma that our vote don't count, because it does.
we have to start teaching our children what's important. And what's important is your rights and privileges as an American citizen. It's more than just going to the mall or just going here and going there. You have rights to a whole lot. You have a right to vote. You have a right to justice. You have a right to fair and equitable treatment. So it's up to us as parents to teach our children and our community and young people and young men and young women all over the place what they have a right to and who they are. If you know who you are and what you have a right to, then perhaps you'll be inspired to go out there and vote. Yes, some of these politicians, like you said, make bad decisions. I mean, I made bad decisions 20 years ago. Things I did 20, 25 years ago, there's no way that I would do those things now. You know, there's just no way. So we can hold those folks accountable. But if you did something 20 years ago and you have maturated, you have learned and grown because of your experiences, then I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And then I'm going to vote for you if I think you represent the things that I need for myself, my family, my community. And then I'm going to hold you accountable once you're in office.
And that, I'm glad you spoke on that, because, you know, right now, Vice President Biden is coming into a lot of that, especially in the Black community, where some of the issues and some of the policies and legislation and things that he was, you know, he voted on or agreed upon 20, 30, 40 years ago are now coming up, and he's not that person on right now. And I say this to a lot of people, is that what you just said, are you the same person that you were 20 years ago? I know I'm not. There's mistakes that I've made 20 years ago that I know I would not make at this present time, because I've matured. I've understand the impact on it. And I think Vice President Biden understands that as well. So that can't be our excuse not to vote this year, or not to vote for Biden if you're a Democratic and that's who you're going to vote for. So we have to be, like you said, we have to give people the benefit of the doubt, because I want to be given the benefit of the doubt that somebody look at me and say, you know what, as a 50-year-old man, Jerome is not the same person that he was when he was 30, right? So if I want people to do that for me, then I should be able to do that for other people as well.
You have to realize that when you're voting in November, we're not just talking about the presidential election. You
Exactly.
You're talking about all the down ballots. The folks, okay, you might not feel like the president, you might not feel like you can reach him and touch him, but you can touch your local judges, your local state senators, your local, House of Representatives and things like that. So in November, I know the big pool is presidential, but it's everybody else that falls on that ticket. Okay, you don't like the president, but you still got a litany of other politicians that you have to vote for that impact your everyday life. And you can't just stop at voting during a presidential election. On those off years, you have to still vote, but you have to be woke.
Have to be woke. Wow. All right. Whew. That's just to be bringing. I told you that's why I love her on the show. I'm glad she's on my team. I'm glad I'm on her team. And it just shows when you engage together, it's so much that you can learn. We sit around and we talk a lot. We watch things together to enhance our mind and give us a different perspective, and continuous learning each and every day, because we realize there's so much that we don't know. So much. We try to learn as much about history, our own history, other people, other ethnics' history, so we could be well diverse. So when we step into a room or we step into a conversation, we're well prepared to speak before. A lot of times people speak and they have no facts to back up what they're talking about. I don't know. The worst thing that happened is to be in a room and to speak knowing that you don't know what you're talking about, and other people looking at you like, he don't know what he's talking about. she don't know what she's talking about. So I like to be well prepared before I open my mouth. So now my next question, what would you say to the person who think voting doesn't matter? We just talked about that. So what would you say to that person who really think that voting don't matter? Because there's a lot of people out here that already have a, a predetermined mindset of this is how the election is going to go. So what would you say to that person who said, oh, it don't matter, I don't need to vote?
Listen, I don't want to hear one more Black person say they need motivation to vote. Not one more. If you got a fool running your country, if you've seen children put in handcuffs and trapped in these facilities and taken away from their parents, if you've seen 100 and almost 80,000 people die from COVID, if you see leaders kowtowing to autocrats, if you see somebody who has over 20,000 lives, over 20,000 lives, if you see over 5 million people who have a disease that could have been averted, I mean, if that's not motivation enough for you, then let's take it to your community. You know, some of the more poverty-stricken community. Why is it that Fairfax have computers that they could pass out to their kids and they can have online teaching, and so it don't affect them as much when their kids are out of school since March of this year? And then you got the Southeast kids who don't even have broadband where they can connect and get the education. Some of our kids in our community are already behind the power curve. So none of that motivates you to vote? If that doesn't motivate you to vote, well, let's take it back to the 60s when John Lewis and Martin Luther King and Al Sharpton and our white brothers and sisters were out there marching and getting their heads beat in so you can cast one single vote. If that's not motivation enough for you, my brother, my sister, you can't be motivated.
Wow. Yeah. You know, one of the things that I would say is that so many people sacrificed. You know, so many people gave up so much, and they didn't think about color. They thought about respect, having a right to do the same thing that everybody else is able to do. And at the end of the day, that's how you allow your voice to speak for itself when you don't have to say a word. You don't see one thing about that ballot box, you don't have to say nothing. All you gotta do is check who you voting for. And so in our communities, as Trey said, our kids are already behind the power curve. So until we get people in place to make a difference, all you're going to hear from us is complaining. And to be quite frankly honest, I'm tired of hearing people complain because they never on the front lines to do anything except complain. There's never going to be a perfect politician because guess what? None of us are perfect. So how are we expecting something from someone else that we can't even live up to ourselves? We've got to get in the game. In order to score points, you got to be on the floor. You can't score from the bench or the sideline. And quite frankly, too many people are outside the stadium. They haven't even gotten a ticket to get in the building. So how are we going to make a difference?
Yeah, hundreds of thousands of people out there protesting the injustices. And I'm with every last one of them. I hear them loud and clear. But
loud and clear.
Transform that into the ballot box. That's how we get these crooked cops and these crooked leaders and these crooked mayors. That's how we get them out. That's how we get rid of them.
Absolutely. But like you said, we have to start somewhere. We have to start to a point where we take voting serious. Because let me just give you guys a jewel for the day. As much as you guys dislike Trump, because I'm definitely not a fan of his as well, let me tell you what's going to happen come November 3rd. All the people who we know to be racist, and not everybody that vote for him is racist. I don't want to say that, but I'm going to include them. Those that we know that are racist, those are who are in his pool of people, those are the people on his team. You best believe come November 3rd, they're voting. They don't care what you think, what I think, what nobody else think. His base, they're voting because to them, it matters. Now, as Trey said earlier, if you're not motivated and you don't understand the repercussions on not voting, then guess what? Stay silent. Don't get on social media. Don't get on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of those things and say, you know what, things are not right. Oh, they're not right because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. November 3rd, they're voting.
Yeah.
Make sure you vote.
Why get on Instagram and Facebook and argue with a bunch of fools? You don't have to argue with fools. Even the Bible tell you don't argue with a fool. Get in that ballot box and check what you want, who you want. They're counting on us not to vote because they think we're just that ignorant. I mean, who in their right mind would put Kanye West on the ballot? They're doing that because they want to cipher off those black votes because they think you are that ignorant that you will put a complete idiot on your ballot so you can cipher off 200 and 300 or 2 and 3,000 votes. Hillary Clinton lost in some states by 2,000 or 3,000 votes. So those electoral votes went to this person that we are now falling up under. Kanye West, that's how ignorant they think we are. That you would take your valuable vote because it is valuable. It's worth rubies and gold. That you would take that vote and cast it on swine, a fool. Come on, people. We better than that.
We got to do better. As Trey said, that is showing us division at its best. But let me just say this. He's not down with us. Don't be fooled. I don't care what pastors bring him to their church and allow him to go in the pulpit and who puts him on his show. Kanye West is not for us. This is the same person who said slaves basically wanted to be enslaved. I'm kind of confused. Like they wanted that? It wasn't that bad? If anybody vote for him, I just want to ask you, what were you thinking?
Right.
What were you really thinking? So don't be fooled. Show them that you have grown, you are mature, and you understand your rights. That's what you have to understand your rights. Okay, let's go to the next question because we could be there forever. Now, knowing how this administration has handled COVID-19, treated women, people of color, including our Hispanic brothers and sisters, what does the 2020 presidential election mean to you?
Listen, people. This election is everything. Our democracy counts on you to get out there and do something. Come on. We're not Russia. We're not China. We don't want an autocrat running our country. Too many have lived and died for the right of us, all of us Americans, to live in a more perfect union. That's why the logo for the Biden campaign is for the people. We the people. We the people. It's up to us, the people, to make a difference. Come on, we got this.
Wow. Let me see. For me, the 2020 presidential election is everything. See, I think what people don't understand is the behind the scene things,
Mhm.
the putting certain people on the Supreme Court,
Come on now.
all of the judges that have been elected under this president. See, I work with young men every day who face a lot of time. And so they're going to be going to these courts and be judged by people that a racist president has put in place. Now, if y'all don't understand the dynamics of that, just imagine you and your counterpart both having the same crime,
Yeah.
and he get probation and you get 5 years. And they
Prison,
call that justice.
yeah. Prison is a
So we have to wake up. It's more at stake in this election than ever before. We know that this president is a known narcissist, a racist. He lies consistently, and everything that he does and say is for him and his cronies. If you don't understand that, if that does not motivate you, if seeing young kids in cages taken away from their families, country, what he said about the NFL players, get those SOBs, fire them and all of that. If you don't understand the energy and the negativity that come from this administration, and you gotta think about voting this year, then you get what you deserve.
if
That's
you
all I
don't
gotta say.
want to hear nothing, don't post nothing, don't march to nothing. No. If you don't get out there and let your voice be heard, that's why we call it he said, she said, because your voice counts.
Absolutely. He said, she said.
Right.
Not he said. And to piggyback on that, women, the movement for women is so real right now. But I want to speak to my women out there real quick before I get to my next question. In 2016, you had a problem with a woman that was running.
Come
You
on.
came up with everything possible not to vote for her, even though she was the most qualified. You allowed the media to get into your head and make you vote or not vote against her,
Yeah.
right? And women have been subjected to a lot of the same things that Black people, Hispanics, Native Americans, and every other minority um, ethnicity that's had to deal with stuff. Women have had to deal with so much, but you see, I don't know if you've been watching, women are on the rise and they not playing. And Kamala Harris, first Black vice president nominee, and guess what? They allowed you to think about ways to try to criticize her. But the reality is that sometimes when God wants certain things to happen, it don't matter what you want to do. It
Right.
don't matter what you say. The movement is here.
Get out the barrel, crabs. Get
Mm,
out the
exactly.
woman who is
Get
qualified,
out the barrel.
competent. You not may not agree with everything, but you don't like her because she half black or half Indian or she did something when she was a prosecutor. You can't get prosecuting if you don't do a crime.
Mm,
You know, what motivation do you need? Listen, Tamir Rice, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, just the other day, Jacobs Blake. Come on, people. Eric Gardner. The list
Ahmaud Arbery.
goes Ahmaud Arbery. The list goes on and
Orlando Castillo. We could go on and on.
you know what? And if you don't get out there and vote, those fools that's sitting in there, those judges, some of those bad judges and bad cops, they gonna get off because you didn't care enough to fill out a ballot to take you 5 minutes and go stand in the line for 1 hour. Come on.
Come
Use
on, people.
the phone half a day.
Come on, people.
We better than that.
Tell
Come on.
them, T-Lat, we better than that. We winding down our he said, she said. V, it's been such a great time with my lovely wife, but also getting her perspective on things that I know that she's very passionate about, and she's put me onto a lot of information about politics, and I must say I'm so diverse now. Like my knowledge is so up. And I was like a lot of you people out there, like I didn't think a lot of that stuff mattered, and then I didn't have to listen to a lot of stuff. But when you listen, you learn, and then you can make a decision for yourself. Versus saying I'm not going to listen to that because you heard that this person was like this, or you heard that. When a lot of times you didn't hear anything, you listened to a fool. That's the reality. So,
Listen to the
last question. Give the people listening a few tips on what to watch, what to look out for, to enhance their knowledge when it comes to politics.
well, number one, vote.gov. All the information that you need is vote.gov. Vote.gov. You can Google it. We all know you know how to Google. Google it, people. Find out where your voting locations are. Find out about registering to vote. Find out about absentee ballot, because Lord knows, vote early. October 3rd. Some states you can get your votes in, your ballots in. Get your ballots, order them, and get them in early. Don't be deceived, people. We got this. We're going to make a change. And for your voice is going to be heard. It's going to be heard loud and clear on November 3rd. And that's when you can pop your collar. Come on. We got it. He
Pop
said
your collar.
conversation.
Wow.
The people. Not she, not he. It's about we, the people. I believe in you. I know you can do it. Vote. It matters. Your vote matters.
Mm,
You on
man.
J-Lat. I'm J-Lat up and down the ballot.
Okay, T-Lat. I see you, man. It's been great having you as my co-host, but it's even greater having you as my wife, because we get to have discussions behind the scenes, as well as, behind on the camera. So, we're passionate about this because we understand right now the times that we're living in, man. It's important. We cannot be sleeping. We have to be woke, and we have to be woke daily, because the world is changing every day. There's so many things happening. We thought that with the Black Lives Matter movement, with the George Floyd incident, and the protesting and marching, that we was moving in the right direction, and boom,
Jacob
this
Black.
young man, was just shot in front of his kids.
In the back 7 times.
And 7 times. There is no justification for what happened to that young man. There's nothing that they can tell me. If it's for y'all, because I work with having to restrain young men each and every day if we have to. And unless they're imminent threat, we are not to restrain them. That man was not an imminent threat. And if you thought he was, it's for y'all. Y'all could tackle him to the ground. He cannot beat all four of y'all. But to shoot him in the back, not once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, in the disregard for and the welfare of his children in the back seat. You know what that tells us? That our lives don't matter. And so as a Black man in this country, we're terrified, not that we're afraid to defend ourselves, but that we will be subjected to energy like that for doing nothing. You cannot counteract that. I don't care how strong you are. Like, I'm driving, I live in Virginia, and I drive through Maryland and DC.
Rihanna.
When I come across those lines, I don't know if I get pulled over at night because I drive a car that they may deem as, oh, he might be doing something illegal. No, I go to work every day. Everything that I have, I earn. But you have cops out here who never been around Black people, who come from towns where it's just those little old white towns, and then they come out and they shoot first.
Say her name.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor.
We're still looking for justice for Breonna Taylor.
Gotta vote for.
Still. We're still looking for justice for Ahmaud Arbery. Still.
Come on now.
Tamir Rice.
Your vote matters.
It's so many names. It's sad.
Mm-hmm.
It is so sad. So I just want to say before we check out this evening that you heard what Trey and I had to say. You felt our pain and what's going on in this country. And we just want you to vote. You don't have to do no explanation. You don't have to believe everything that we said. But as you do have the right to vote because so many people have died for you to be able to. Trey, I'm going to allow you to have a few words before we close out. I think I said pretty much everything I need to say. What you got?
I just want to encourage you all to get out there and make a difference in this world, make a difference in your community, make a difference in the lives of these young people. They're doing their part. They're getting out there, they're protesting, they're posting, they're doing their part. It's up to us to set the example for them to follow and make a better life for them coming behind us. We got more years behind us than we do in front of us. It's the reverse for them. Make a better life for your life, for your community, for your family. Vote. That don't mean deuces. That means vote. Vote.
Vote. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is J Lat and T Lat. He said, she said, man, the message was clear. The message was on point, and the message was well needed. We don't want to hear anything. All we want you to do is vote. We love you. We thank you, and continue to tune in to our show. We out.